Registration drive in Marsabit County. Let's just move on. Rwanda is commemorating the 25th anniversary since the start of the devastating 1994 genocide. The country has from April 7th been in a state of mourning for 100 days in honor of the 800,000 lives that were lost. President Paul Kagame led the country in this commemoration on Sunday. Today, a ceremony is being held at the UN headquarters in Nairobi. All right, we now want to cross over to the United Nations headquarters in Nairobi and link up with our reporter Mary Moki, who has been following up on this particular commemoration ceremony happening at the UN since morning. A very good afternoon to you, Moki. We've had a lot of speeches, especially from individuals linked to the United Nations. What is the main issue they're passing as we remember 25 years since the genocide in Rwanda?
So basically, Jesse, we're just here commemorating and sort of paying tribute to the Rwandese spirit that has been described by speaker after speaker as indomitable, unbreakable. They've been described as people who are very resilient, and to just, reflect on how this country that was brought to its knees by the genocide in 1994 has managed to pick up the pieces and sort of rebuild and be where they are now. Right now, I'm joined by Maureen, who is a post-genocide baby. She's just going to tell us what she knows about the genocide, the stories she's had growing up. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Maureen.
So what stories do you know about the genocide?
When I was growing up, it was a few years after genocide, and my parents just told me about a few stories about refugee stories, and we also had a few losses in our family. I had a number of people were there during the genocide, and they were killed as well. Okay. Yeah.
You told me that at some point during the war, your parents were refugees, and after that, the war ended, and then they came back. How has that shaped the nation of Rwanda?
Well, from actually during the 70s, there already started to be a few killings and things like that. So some families moved to Uganda, Congo, Burundi, just different countries, Tanzania as well. So my parents moved. My mom's family moved, I think, during the 80s, and my father's family moved a bit later to Uganda, and there are refugees there. My father met my mother actually in a refugee camp, and how it has affected, I think, the country or shaped the country for refugees, it has strengthened us because refugees were there for a very long time in different countries, and even hatred towards them in countries like Uganda. And then as soon as they got a place to call home and returned, they really clinged and loved it even more because it's home.
You've lived here in Kenya for 2 years now, going to the university. How would you compare us Kenyans to Rwandese when it comes to unity and brotherhood?
I'm speaking from a perspective of, I don't really know the full depth, but from what I've learned about the history, and I think you have about 43 tribes, I guess. So I think it's a bit more complicated for you guys, but for us it was a matter of tribes it was just an indoctrination of the idea of being divided because of what you look like and where you come from and your name, but it's not like that anymore because we spoke the same language, things like that. And as soon as we came together and renewed, and we're very strong together now because we have to catch up with the world. We have to move forward from that kind of thing. For Kenya, I think it's a bit more complicated because of how many you are, and it's just very diverse and very big, and I think that's the only difference. And as a result of that circumstance, it makes it a bit weaker in terms of the brotherhood and togetherness. However, that could never stop. That's never too much for unity and strength and brotherhood. Yeah.
Okay, so there you have it, Jesse. Just trying to draw a comparison between Kenya and Rwanda. And yeah, it has been 25 years since the genocide, and these people are slowly rebuilding their lives, coming from a time when a tenth of the population, that's about 800,000 people, were murdered during the genocide. And when you do that and calculate that it happened in a span of just 100 days, then it shocks you that in a day, about 8,000 people were murdered senselessly. So the nation is rebuilding, and we are here paying tribute to the heroes of that particular struggle, those that hid their neighbors, those that protected their neighbors, and the spirit that they've shown to rise from the ashes. Jesse.
All right, Mary Moki, before we let you go, Kwibuka 25 actually shows the entrenchment of national unity and national values among the Rwandese. Let me just take you back to what the panelists, the speakers had to say. Just give us a few insights of what stood out during the various speeches that were delivered during this Kwibuka 25 commemoration.
Well, one thing that really stood out, Jesse, and I found it very interesting, is the fact that in Rwanda, they do not have tribes anymore, you know. Unlike here in Kenya, whereby when you hear my surname, you're able to tell perhaps where I'm coming from. When I hear your name, I'm able to know where you're coming from. Rwandese do not have that system anymore. They just identify as Rwandese. They speak one language, that is Kinyarwanda. And I think that's a beautiful country. And I think it has sort of helped the nation to pull together, because there's nothing as you do not come from a community. They are all brothers and they identify as such. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Anyway, many thanks, Mary Moki. We definitely continue to support our brothers and sisters in Rwanda as they commemorate the 25th anniversary ever since the genocide against the Tutsis happened in Rwanda. Of course, this started over the weekend. President Paul Kagame actually kicked off this memorial at the Gisozi genocide memorial site in Rwanda, actually pushing for the message on unity and peace and